Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kimberly and Shanika, for the agenda, the minutes, and for pulling this all together for us, as you do every month. Shanika is co-hosting now, I see, on Zoom. Looking at our, so we are called to order. We have a quorum. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
Don't we need Jane to first do the motion that allows us to meet?
So that is a rules of the city council.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a rule of the city council. You guys are just a committee, so you don't have to do that formality.
Okay, then I move approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm amazed how the rules changed at the Park and Rec Department. We had to do it before we could meet.
Well, because I don't think because here's the problem. I think I'm the only person that actually reads Open Meetings Act, like law. And it's like, that is because you all are doing it because your rules set the process. You all don't have rules to set a process, so you're not suspending any rules.
Right.
So
we are still in compliance with the Open Meetings Act and the governor's executive order allowing us to meet virtually. So it probably doesn't require a specific motion or anything to do this.
Correct. You just have to do a roll call. That is the only thing you do have to do is a roll call.
On every vote.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let's do a roll call on approving the minutes. Interim Assistant City Manager Richardson, do you call the roll or do I?
It doesn't matter. Whichever you want. I can do it since I'm looking at everyone's names. So.
All right, thank you. This is
Chair Jane, correct.
Yes.
No, I can't do it. Jane.
Here and yes, thank you.
Alejandra.
Here.
Carla.
Here and yes.
I can never say Delores. I'm going to say Miss Holmes. I'm sorry. I was saying I was yes. Alderman Wynne.
Yes.
Kathy.
Here and yes.
All present. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I think it looks, Kimberly, it looks as if we have some public comment speakers joining us today. I don't know if anybody, would you prefer, does it work better if we move this to the end so that we can take care of the business of our crafting a retreat for ourselves?
I mean, it's up to you, Chair. I'll defer that to you and Alejandra.
I actually think that we could hear public comment if there's anybody who's interested in offering public comment tonight. What's the way that we do this on Zoom? Indicate in the chat box?
No, they can raise their hand if they want to speak. That button is under more if you want to raise your hand. So right now I don't see anyone unless they don't know. You can speak if you are trying to. All right, I do see one person right now who want to speak. Allie.
Right, great. Allie, can we unmute Allie so that she can address the commission? Hi, Allie.
Hi, I'm here. I had to move away from the noise in the basement. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for the work that you do on this commission. I just want to say that I feel like the process that has just happened for the selection of city manager may not live up to the goal of this commission. So I'd like you to really take a strong look at that and make sure that your policies of equity and empowerment are actually being fulfilled by the city council and by the human resources practices that are within. I just recently read the description of the committee, and I think that's just something that you need to take a really good, strong, hard look at and ask yourselves if you're filling the charge that you've been given. So look at that.
All right. Thank you, Allie.
Mm-hmm.
Noted. Is there anyone else who would like to offer public comment tonight to the commission? Give another couple seconds, knowing that I'm allowing a little more room to raise a hand just because of this virtual platform and all of its awkwardness.
And I want to ask When we're in Zoom, shouldn't people identify themselves? Because when it just says iPhone, I'm wondering who's behind that or whatever. So I understand that people don't have to be on camera, but we should at least have names, right?
It's hard to do Zoom. It's hard to change your name on Zoom if you're dialing in from a phone. If it's even possible, I think. I agree. It'd be nice to identify.
No, it's possible. We do it every week at Senior Club. So most of them call in on the phone. So you have to identify yourself in order to participate.
Thank you, Alderwoman Holmes. All attendees, if you're able, if you can figure it out, would you please make sure that we have your full name in the in your Zoom identity. Thank you so much. All right, there being no one else looking to offer public comment tonight, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is planning for our retreat. We have identified a date, interim assistant city manager, and I apologize because I don't have paper in front of me. I'm looking at multiple screens because I'm not at home right now. So I'm sorry if hey, there's Max. Max, welcome. We got started without you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the retreat, we would like to identify together the purpose and the outcomes that we're hoping from a retreat and the process that we will use to achieve those outcomes, to find those outcomes. If we could spend a little time talking about what we hope to get from the retreat, what its purpose will be, why are we doing the retreat, real quick. We could have that conversation and then get to questions about, having trouble finding all my notes, sorry. Are there some specific outcomes that we want?
Well, I would say, oh, can you all hear me? Okay, good. I've actually moved to a different room, so now I'm getting used to using this room and this lighting. And so I have a couple of things that I wanted to raise just to help facilitate this conversation. You know, there's been a call or a request. There was a call and request to have the strategic planning meeting so that we could actually be well poised to be able to have clarity about our role, our purpose, our duties, our powers, so that we could actually plan out and create some strategic planning towards our future work. And one of the things that I have raised and that I struggle with, but I'm struggling with you all in this meeting, is clarifying what is our purpose, is our power, and what is our role, and taking the point that Allie lifted up, thank you so much, about what is our role both in internal policy decisions, external communications with the community. I'm not sure if you fellow commissioners have had a chance to look at the ordinance that helped create our commission. I think it would be beneficial to discuss, and I'd love to hear from folks about what they feel the purpose and the role of our commission is, because I think we need to have clarity about that so that we can start to pivot and move forward about a work plan for how we are going to really help bring equity and empowerment to the city of Evanston. And so, so let me just pose a question. If people can share with us what they feel is the purpose and the role and the power of our commission in this moment.
Thank you, Alejandra. I'll just start by saying, yeah, the idea of sitting here as you ended in this moment and talking about a retreat seems to me like we're in a boat and it's filling with water from 99 holes. And we want to sit here and talk about how we could build a sail 5 years from now and maybe travel the world.
Thanks for the aspirational vision.
Yeah, but there's water coming in the boat right about now.
Okay.
Right, and we're sinking. So we're in the middle of an equity crisis in this community. And I don't know how we're supposed to sit on this committee and talk about a retreat. So if we're not here to be real and to deal with issues, why are we here? I don't do elephants in the room. So I purposely went and reread today the purpose of this group. And I'll just reread it out loud. The purpose of the Equity and Empowerment Commission, known as the Commission from here on, is to identify and eradicate inequities in the city of Evanston, including city services, programs, human resource practices, and decision-making processes. Like, I could drop the paper right there.
Yep, Carla, this is Kimberly. I definitely agree with you. I think as a new committee member or commission member like you, I think I'm still a little unclear on exactly what is on our agenda and how are we empowered to put things on our agenda? I mean, I think that purpose statement is powerful, and I think we probably all have some ideas on where to start and what are some things that we can do, but I don't at least feel that I know who gives us the direction, or are we able to set our own direction? And so I think that's something I've been trying to figure out as this is my third meeting now, maybe, because I agree. I think there are some very immediate things that we should be, putting our voices and collectively to speak out against certain things and, inserting ourselves in processes where we can. I just don't have a good sense of where, do we chart our own way, or are we waiting for someone to tell us what we should do? So I guess I'm reflecting on my comment, I kind of am looking to the more experienced members of this commission to sort of help me answer that question. And maybe it doesn't have a clear answer, and maybe that's part of the problem. But if there is no clear answer, how do we get an answer? Because I think that while we try to figure out what we should focus on, I think there are missed opportunities that are, passing us by.
I wouldn't call myself an experienced member of the committee but I've been here since the beginning. And the purpose, as Carla read it, is the way we came on. That has changed, and I feel like we've been moved away from that. I don't know why. I can't answer that. We spent lots of time in the beginning working in one direction, and then we were moved to another direction. I can't answer that, so I don't know. I thought we were here to help the city deal with the issues, but now it seems that is moving away, and I think maybe I'm even reading it wrong. So I'm trying to listen and learn from where the group wants to go. So I mean that's my understanding.
I mean, I will share, and I posed the question so that we could actually together as a commission speak out loud, because I feel like we really haven't taken the opportunity to talk out loud about our purpose. I mean, I will share that Alderman Holmes and I actually worked on a civic engagement policy very early on in our tenure. Dr. Effiam, who was leading the commission at the time, actually, well, I can't say that she led us in that space. We created a work plan because we were going to empower ourselves to help provide a direction and a vision to help the city of Evanston become a more equitable community. And so, and we empowered ourselves because there wasn't clear direction to actually help lift up some best practices, right, in helping the city be able to create a vision and a plan to become a more equitable city. And we lifted those up. We created a work plan. Alderman Holmes and I create a civic engagement policy for consideration. I would like for us to lift that up and continue that conversation. It was dropped once Dr. Effiam left. And so I think for us to do strategic planning, I think we all need to be on the same page about what our purpose is, so then we can craft a plan for the future of our work that provides clarity. I know that from multiple conversations with Kimberly, who's doing some amazing work within the city, I feel like we're on parallel paths, but we need to actually, I think, be much more engaged, because we have already collected research on some best practices for creating racially equitable city of practices, with some accountability, because right now I'm not quite sure who is accountable to whom, and I think we need to provide some clarity. I think if we're able to build some purpose and some goals, we can then have a strategic plan that is clear and concise. Nobody wants to sit on this commission and go in circles. We actually want to be, we want to do the work and represent the community, and be that liaison between the community and the city of Evanston to actually move us in this direction. And so I just love to hear from anybody else on the commission about our purpose in moving us forward, so we could actually make the best use of our retreat that's coming up.
I think I'm the next new person after Carla and Kimberly, but I think what I said last time was I did, well, first of all, I think it's awesome how many people are here. It's great that there's such a good turnout, and I love the reactions that everyone's throwing up. So there's obviously a sense of community desire for our commission to do something just based on this turnout, which is very cool. I joined this, I was interested in being on this for advocacy work. And I think one thing that I pick up on here is, it's on the second page, but studying and investigating problems of prejudice, bigotry, and discrimination. Carla said the ship is sinking right now. And I think, I always come back to my work in schools. We have children right now sitting in fall camps who, thank goodness they're in fall camps for lots of reasons, but when we start to hear their stories, when you really listen to their stories, it's a failure of many parts of this city that they haven't had the supports and resources that they've needed up to this point. So that's the daily life.
Oh, Max, you're frozen.
It just doesn't sit right as we walk around the town, and we know that it breaks down according, sorry, my connection's unstable, I'm going to turn off my screen. We know that it breaks down according to race and class way too often, but I feel like sometimes we don't get to talk about real lived experiences. So being able to talk about it, I think, being able to talk being able to hear voices of people, whether it's truly having them come to this committee, whether it's storytelling. I mean, there are many, many ways and opportunities, and I think we all have networks too that we can have honest conversations about what's going on. I remember just before the pandemic, we were starting to talk. I think Kathy, maybe you and I were riffing a little bit about the homeless population that's growing in Evanston, and and then COVID, and then we didn't meet for the first 3 or 4 months. And that was kind of a jarring experience, being on the Equity and Empowerment Commission and not meeting when a crisis is going on. So I think, I'm speaking about the urgency and the desire, and I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do it. So be as active as possible on this committee is a desire that I have.
Jane, I'll speak as someone who has been on the commission not quite the entire time, and as a member of the city council when it was created. And I'd say that I think it was created with this very, very broad purpose statement, because at the time there was a recognition that that the city needed to have a special committee that was looking and examining and working on equity, and the purpose was written broadly with the idea that the commission would work on given sort of a broad purpose with the commission to determine the best direction to go, and then come back to the city council or to work on it themselves. And I agree with Alderman Holmes. We've set a direction several times and then had our course changed on us by somewhat external forces. And I think there's a lot of activity going on within the city regarding equity. In some ways, we have a lot of different equity fronts happening simultaneously. And that's good in the sense that there are many different people who are working very hard on these things. The downside is we're not coordinated, and we need to be coordinated in some way, because I think, as Alejandra said, we need to understand what our power is. And our power originally was to think about equity and come back and do research and figure out what would be the best way. I mean, this is how I'm interpreting it, and you all can chime in, but what was the best thing to do with this enormous topic that needed so much. So I think that yes, we're sinking, but we also have an enormous subject that is going to take a long time to address. I don't know whether we'd ever address it fully. And we meet once a month. So we're given a huge task, and we need to sit down, I would agree, sit down together and understand what else is happening within the city. I mean, since this commission started, the institutional racism resolution has been passed by the city council. The reparations fund has been created we created that on the city council. A means of funding it has been created, and the reparations subcommittee has been meeting for quite a period of time. So, I mean, we have not heard from them necessarily. Those meetings are public, but we have not heard from them. So where do we fit in with all of that? And we did have some plans that we were developing about having community conversations about equity. So I think we do need a retreat to figure out what does this commission think is the most pressing and useful, what's the most pressing issue that we can address, and with the power that we have. Because you're right, I don't want to go in circles. There are just too many other things that need to get done.
What I keep hearing is that we're waiting for power to be handed to us. Has anybody ever read a history book? Like, I'm just saying.
Can I jump in
Delores, what did you say?
She said we're waiting for power to be handed to us. Is that what you said? I don't see that. Just like Melissa just finished saying, we've had some detours. The reparations and that kind of stuff would not have happened without this committee, and we stopped and dealt with that and got them started. The sustainable thing that we just finished, that would not have happened if it hadn't been for this committee. We stopped and dealt with that. So we have been, I don't want to say we've been thrown curveballs, but we jumped on whatever has been put before us to take care of it without continuing on to what I feel that we originally started out to do. And I'm only giving my perspective, but I feel like, I don't want to say we've been sidetracked, but I think that in doing that, it sort of took the focus off of where we were headed.
I just want to be clear that I am not making a generalized statement of any inability in the past for this commission to have done anything like assisted with the reparations. I am talking about the fact that we in this community today, in this very day, in this very week, have an enormous equity crisis in our HR resources practices and decision-making process. I'm not making a generalization. And we have people who are on our healthcare committees who quit. And we as a committee have said nothing, have called there should have been an emergency meeting. As if we then think this fell in our purview.
Can you
we
be
had no
clear?
role.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't.
Is anybody, can I
You're
ask
talking
if
about
there's
the-
anybody without a picture on who doesn't know what I'm talking about?
She's talking about the city manager.
Seriously, people.
But what healthcare workers have resigned?
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
part I don't know what you're talking about.
The healthcare,
Just,
the healthcare commission.
It was the mental health board.
Mental health commission.
The Evanston Mental Health Board resigned. There was her letter in the roundtable, I think, this week.
It was not, okay, I'm just gonna say, it wasn't sent to the city council.
Doesn't
I
matter.
don't, I mean, I try to read social media, but.
So can I just say,
Kimberly, what's going on? I
No,
did not know the.
no, okay. People resign every day for whatever reasons on boards and commissions. That's a board and a commission. It's not a position within the city. It's not a paid position. It's a volunteer position, just like you. But can I just go back to what you were saying? Because I was listening to everything everyone's saying. And as the staff that's leading this, the staff liaison leading this group, I need to speak so that I can give you some clarity from this standpoint of city operations. In 2017, this ordinance was developed. I don't know how this ordinance was developed and how this ordinance got passed through city council, because I don't know, city council doesn't, do anything with our HR. They have no say in HR. They don't have the ability to hire any staff other than appoint the city manager. They don't have any ability to pass or approve our personnel manual. That is all done internally. And reading that document, reading your ordinance, it was very clear this ordinance should have been stood up as a city internal committee to review our city policies and to actually make those changes internally. This should not have been created as a city commission. How it got approved and passed, I don't know, because I was not engaged, nor was I involved or asked to be involved at the time. And so for the last 6 months, I have been trying to figure out, how do I bring you all into this process so that we can have the community input, but also our city staff, because they're the ones who are the most impacted by any policy change internally. How can I ask them to do a community engagement policy that they have no say in, that they have no training on, that they have no education in, and tell them, okay, this is the new policy because you need to do equity? And they're looking at me like, but what's equity? That is what I'm dealing with right now. We are starting from, and I'm just going to be honest, we did a lot of good work. We talked about a lot of personal awareness, a lot of individual training about oneself. We did SEED. We've done work with YWCA with trainings around awareness, with explicit, implicit bias, microaggressions. We've done a lot of work internally to understand ourselves, but we have not done the work around equity that looks at our policies, practices, and procedures. We just haven't. And what I did last month was have someone come in, because this is the individual that'll be working with us, so that we can do exactly what this commission was asked to do in an internal structure. So now my frustration, and I am frustrated because one, I don't want to waste people's time. And I think the work that you all have been doing, I've read it. And the fact that I can't do anything with it right at this moment, one, is not fair to you because you put the work into it. But secondly, what is frustrating the most is that this was allowed to happen. You shouldn't have been doing this work. We should have been doing this work. Staff should have been doing this work. And then you should have been holding us accountable. The fact that you are a public body, you're not a staff-driven committee. You have to figure out a way, how do you hold city council accountable? How do you hold other boards and commissions accountable? How do you hold that structure accountable that then is responsible for holding us as staff accountable? That is where we have to get to, because guess what, Carla? As much as people may have hated the process for the city manager, I can tell you there was 3 other city manager recruitments happening at the same time, and not one of them had a person of color in their top 3 candidates. So we've gone a long way. Is it fair that maybe not for those? But I have to tell you, we have work to do in Evanston, but we're not sinking. We may not just be at the level that you all expect us at, but we are not sinking. We are doing the work. If you would see and look at the work that we did with the social services, we stood up a Health and Human Services Department that actually is functioning and able to respond to COVID-19. We have staff looking at how we are funding mental health and CDBG funding in an equity lens way. You know how we have that? Because they've been trained to start doing that work. The more we train and build capacity in our department, in our organization, the more you're going to see that externally. But if we can't get empowerment in our own organization, if our staff don't feel empowered, how the heck are they going to empower our community? So we have to do both. We just need to figure out in some way, how do we bring you all together with what we're doing so it is a collaboration and it's not either or. I want to figure that way, and I think we can do it so that you're not sitting here wasting your time writing policies. Instead, you're holding us accountable and having measurements and saying, this is what we're expecting from you. How are you going to meet those expectations? That's how it's going to, because this is what we do. This is our daily profession. We are here. You don't need a full-time one person. You need a full organization doing equity work. So what can I do to help support that? That's what I want to find out. But I'm so sorry that you all have done this work and you feel like it's been done for naught. My goal is to take that work, and I'm going to figure out a way how we can implement it that makes sense so that we can do that work effectively internally and externally. So I'm just being honest. I'm being as transparent as possible. It's no one's fault. But I'm going to tell you though, Alderman Wynne, how the heck does City Council stand up a committee they don't even know anything about? I mean, they don't even understand what term racial equity even means. And for that to be the reason, for us to expect them, for them to be okay reading that ordinance and not questioning anything is just amazing. Because I questioned it when I read it. I was like, how the heck are they supposed to do this? They don't even know our internal policy. So that's all I have to say. That's all my comments. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to go on and on about it.
Kimberly, I just want to address one thing, and I appreciate all the emotion and the passion behind what you said. I want to make it clear, the holes I'm talking about is not a general dysfunction of Evanston. So I don't want to take away from any of the things you said that's going on with social services. That's all I want to add.
I respect that.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Carla. I think one of the things that's pretty clear to everybody that we need to sort out is if we are looking to empower ourselves, Carla, as you said, we need to figure out the extent of our power. And if what we imagine our role is vis-a-vis the city and supporting what Kimberly is doing internally, and if it doesn't match up with what we're actually enabled to do from the ordinance, then we propose changes to the ordinance to empower ourselves to do what we think we need to do to benefit the city and the community. And it looks as if that we get mixed signals from the enabling ordinance, from the bylaws that we have, and from our internal discussions about what we want to do with this. Max wants this to be an advocacy organization, advocacy group. The way that the ordinance is structured, it doesn't allow us to do that. So this retreat needs to be about figuring out, understanding our power, as Alejandra and Carla have said, the extent of our power, our role vis-a-vis city staff, and also understanding everything else that's happening in the city so that we don't duplicate efforts, so we can support the good stuff that's going on and we can hold accountable for what's not happening in the city, if that's what we imagine our role to be.
Jane?
Yeah.
I think I need to address some of what Kimberly just said. Kimberly, when the council enacted and created this commission, I think the council was doing something aspirationally. I don't know that the entire city council, and I'll just tell you right now, the entire city council probably in their heart of hearts did not agree with creating this commission. But there were enough of us on it who believed that we needed to have a commission to start the discussion. Now, does that mean that we should have dealt in finer detail with what the commission should be and should do? Yes, but I think that there's no question that this commission is evolving. We can see how fast equity is evolving. But I will tell you, when this commission was created, I don't think that we were looking internally, and others, Delores and Jane and Alejandra can correct me if I'm wrong, but our original discussions were talking about understanding equity in the larger community and what we should do about starting the discussion within the larger community. The issue was raised, and appropriately so, about how can we have a discussion about this with the larger community if we are not, the city staff itself is not addressing this. And I agree that on the work that you've been doing has been tremendous. I think this is why we're having this discussion right now, is to say we need to stop and reassess what is the purpose of this commission. A commission that meets once a month is not going to be able to address some of the issues that people have raised tonight. And I don't believe that we do have the power to change the city's HR policies. We were not given that power. And so that's a problem. But I think that those things have been somewhat addressed. I think there are members of the city council who don't necessarily pay much attention to equity. But, you know, this is why we're talking tonight. We're talking because we need to figure out what's the purpose of this commission working in parallel with what's happening on all of the work that the city staff has done. Because if we aren't working in conjunction with each other, then we're not going to make any progress. So I welcome this discussion, and I am ready, willing, and able to re-examine the purpose and determine what it is that's possible for a commission to do, and what it is that this commission can do. We don't have a specific task. We have an enormous task. So, you know, we need to think broadly about it, but also realistically about what we can do. What are the goals that we think we can accomplish as a city commission that's made up of one alderman and I don't remember how many we are, 9 volunteers.
I would like to, go ahead.
Kathy, yeah.
Can I just jump into, as someone, I think who's been in from the beginning, and say that, you know, first, I really appreciate all the work and the passion that everyone is bringing to this. And I think we have evolved, and in some ways it's because we've wanted to be responsive to people in the community who saw a new commission and thought, this is the commission that can help forward, you know, what I see as an inequity, or you know, people that could use a voice. And I actually don't know that that's not what I thought the role was, to give voice to folks that maybe didn't have their voices heard. I came to this thinking that was part of the role that we as a commission had. I'm up for, you know, the discussion also, and I'd like to hear, because the commission is now a different group of people. But I also think that I never thought that we as a commission would be, since I don't work in the city, you know, I'm not the right person necessarily. Well, I'm not the right person, period. I don't work in the city, so I don't know that I thought I would be changing things, but I guess I thought of us as more of a, this is just my thought. I came to it thinking we are people with different life experiences at Evanston, and we're trying to bring those life experiences to share with the city and with others, to try to have different voices be factored into all of the things that happen. That's kind of nebulous, right? But that's kind of how it started, was, for me, was with this kind of bigger, looser idea. But I think there's another part of this that we talked about the community, we've talked about the city employees, but I also think there's a whole bunch of other boards and commissions, just like us, who maybe have a more defined role because they've been around for a long time. So, you know, there's people that think about housing, there's people that think about mental health services, there's people that think about zoning, and I think, if I may say, we've picked the hard one, right? Because our work goes across every single thing that all of the commissions and all of the city workers do, because we're trying to think about how to make, you know, boil the ocean and make it all equitable. But so I guess I just wanted to throw in that there's another group of decision makers, or at least influencers in our structure, and that is the volunteers like us who are passionate about whatever it is and spend their time coming to try to make the city a better place to live. And, you know, I'm thinking that is also a part of all this work, is trying to get all the oars. It's an impossible task, but it's not an impossible goal, I think, to try to kind of get folks on the same page so that we can start the oars moving together. That's just the way I see it, or I saw it, and I'm more than willing to evolve what I understand the commission to be, you know, through this conversation. So that's how I started and where I am at this point.
And I wonder, to move us forward, because I think I wanted to raise the question because I've been struggling with it for a very long time, and we have evolved. But I wonder if having a collective exercise of looking at that purpose and making and doing right by it and making it what it needs to be, whatever that may be, should be an exercise that we engage in, so that then we can have clarity. I mean, there are so many possibilities here, you know, and we've talked a number of times about GARE and different models that are being used. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And yes, Evanston is unique, but I think there are some parallel paths that we need to be working collaboratively with. And I don't mean to put Kimberly on the spot, because she's been holding this, she's been holding us and trying to keep us together throughout all the challenges. But I wonder I think we really need to spend some time in looking at the purpose and doing right by it. We're not going to wait for anyone to give us power. We've been given it. And so we need to take it and just, you know, make that purpose clear, because right now it is not. And then start getting back on track where we were, to create work plans and working. I mean, you know, Kimberly's got this project going on that's trying to move a work plan towards racial equity. And I think we need to be a part of that somehow. And so is our next exercise to review, you know, that ordinance and doing right by it, and then moving forward on creating a plan for the next, whatever, 3-4 years. Because there's nothing like having all these. I even see a neighbor of two of mine as a public member on this call. And I want to make sure that I'm doing right by being on this commission. And to do that, I need to have clarity about my purpose, our purpose together, so we can do right by it. And I bet you all want to do the same exact thing.
Yep.
And so can that be, I don't want to say ask, but I think one of the first things we need to do is review that ordinance and review our purpose to do right by it. So then we can start planning the future and doing that purposefully. I feel like both things need to happen at the same time. There are some things happening at the city that are good things, and we need to be working hand in hand, not in the dark and alone.
I have a question. Thanks,
So-
for your comments. In the meantime, while we work on the strategic planning and, sort of the forward-looking aspects of our vision and, clarifying our purpose, what are the thoughts on like, how do we respond to things that may be happening, right? Like taking, the city manager discussion aside, let's just say something came up, right? In the middle of our work, I know that there are some groups that will, put out a letter urging city council to consider A, B, C, or, convene a meeting to try and, get community input on what's happening and then share that. So I guess really what I'm asking is, we definitely should have a plan, and I agree that, we should clarify our purpose and we should understand exactly how we can best use our power, but inevitably, because we know equity is such a large cross-cutting issue, there will be things that are not maybe on our plan, but that maybe deserve our attention or our time, or at least our advocacy.
Yeah.
So how do we do that in the middle of working on our agenda?
Right. I can shed a little light on this. We are, as a branch of local government, subject to the Open Meetings Act. So we can indeed call special meetings, emergency meetings even, but they have to be there. We are required to give notice of them the same way that you do other meetings. So we can meet. We can't meet any sooner than 48 hours after when we decide we need to do a public meeting, just because of the Open Meetings Act. So we could do that. So we can be responsive in that way, Kimberly, but we can't, and we cannot issue statements without the commission's approval of them. So I would be glad to summon us together for an emergency meeting so that we could consider something and respond to it and agree on a statement and release a statement from the Equity Empowerment Commission. We just haven't been that nimble to be able to do that. And I think we'd have lots of opportunities. The question is, would we want to do that? We'd need a quorum to do it. And then we would need to make sure that we give adequate notice for those special or emergency meetings. And Kimberly and Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong on the 48 hours for a special meeting like that, but I think that's what the notice, the advance notice to the public of what our meeting would be.
Thank you, Jane. Really helpful.
For a while.
You just need to be, it just need to be posted 48 hours. I think you just have to announce it and post. You don't have to, yeah. I guess if you all.
The reason for the meeting and then still have a quorum to be able to.
Right, because you still have to have a quorum. I guess the question is, what would those circumstances be, or, what would those, I guess that's a bylaw question that needs to be, I guess, addressed in the bylaws about like when would a special meeting be convened.
I think if we had a running definition of equity, it might help towards us figuring out, because if we're all sitting here and we don't know a situation perhaps that might require a special meeting, that might be cause for what us to,
yeah.
Even if it's to like send out a letter, either way, I don't know, y'all. The gaslighting here is real.
Well, yeah, I'd love to come back to the advocacy piece, because equity and empowerment, like empowerment as an active word, the work of empowering to me is advocacy work, lowercase a, advocacy work. And I've never heard of anyone in politics, any civil servant who doesn't see their work as mission driven and part of advocacy. So that's where I'm coming from, the work of building a better place. And I'm going to be a broken record over and over and over and over and over and over to look into 5-year-olds' eyes and have them understand that their friends on a Zoom screen are having an experience that is multiplied by zeros, dollar signs, and the freedoms that they have in the same town. That's happening now all the time, every day for years and years and years. Friends Disappear, the book about 1974 at Nichols School, it's still happening. So this urgency, it's not going to go away. And I'm not privy to what happens at the Civic Center, Town Hall. I'd love to have a good flow of information, but I feel like I am privy to walking out on my block with my children and seeing how there are many, many different experiences going on in the same town. And we can say Evanston's really good, it's a nice place to live, it's better than XYZ, but I don't know, I just hope that acting with a sense of urgency, and maybe we need to unpack what that word means too, is somewhere in all of this. I think that's why the committee is made up of a diverse group of people who do a lot of different things for their work. Kathy, I think what you bring an amazing background in, disability work, and that plays out big time in this town every single day. We've talked about how kids with the most need are shuttled by bus across town, and that's been a historical problem in this town. It has real impacts for opportunities for the rest of people's lives, and that hasn't gone away. So I just would hate that we can't bring our lived experiences and professional lens to this work because we're not privy to everything happening at City Hall.
So, but so my question, to you all would be, the city services, the city is not the city. So we don't have jurisdiction over school district and their policies. So I guess, where do you see the biggest need for this commission to be aware of in regards to city policies, and a deeper dive into what is it that would you like to see accomplished by the city to help in some inequities that you are experiencing? Because, I guess I look at inequity not from an advocacy point, Max. It is from a policy-driven point, because that's the work we're in. So
well, if I have a student in my school,
We can't hear you, Max.
Max, are you there?
I'm here, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry, Kimberly, I might have lost the last part, but because I jumped in, I didn't mean to jump over you, but I'm only using, I'm privileged because I get to live with my students who have amazing stories. So I'm not saying fix the problems of the school system. I'm saying I get to see different things. So your question brings up 20,000 stories. So I can live where I live, and children can cross the street without worrying, about traffic. They're not worried about being stopped by a cop because of the color of their skin. Maybe, I shouldn't say that. But families who live in the 5th Ward have many, many problems. I can't have a kid walk to school on their own because of the way the city is designed and set up. I had to have a mom fighting to get police protection in her house after her father was killed a month ago, and needed a lot of activism and advocacy to get that to happen. So how city services are doled out really does depend on your zip code and your address, and I'm not sure that's getting a lot of airtime everywhere. I'm not sure those stories are well known. I'm not sure we're able to talk about those things.
I have a process question. I swear it's a process question. If we take off and we go do a retreat, and the 9 of us with our intentions are, I know things I want to work on, right? Everybody has their pet project. We had a person here before who was about environment, etc. And we go create not only what the big picture purpose, because apparently we're seeing that this is not real, but we say, okay, we want to focus on housing, hiring practices, and I don't know what else. But we haven't asked the citizens yet what's important to them. So how do we get into a retreat when the 9 of us and take our privilege in that room and make decisions when we haven't empowered the community in any way, in any survey, in any outreach, to say what is important to them, like how they view equity, how they view the prioritization of what's ahead. Because to the point several people made, we do have to kind of chunk things down. But the second question, Kimberly, it comes back to something you said that I wasn't aware of, about how this ordinance got created. If we go and create our own purpose now, when I think from what Kimberly said, essentially the structurally how this was created was not correct, because it's saying that we have input, I'm not saying control, we can't control things, but input, or have a say, or should insert our opinions. Sorry, reminded to drink water. We should insert our opinions around HR issues. If that's not true, if we go and create something else, how do we not end up in another situation where we create something that's not true and we don't have power over?
Can I first before I answer your question, Carla, I just want to, my words were very, very reckless and very careless. I want to first apologize to Alderman Wynne and, and the commission, because one, my words are not meant, because I'm sitting here thinking about what I said, and my words was not an attack or at the city council, because it's not this it's our job. The onus is on us. When I say us, I mean the administration, senior manager's office, when we're doing these types of things. And I want to be very mindful. This is not on the city council. They are volunteers, even though they get a stipend. But I went to school to do this. I should know what good policy and ordinances look like. So I want to first apologize, because I allow my passions to say things that are a little reckless in this form. And so I just want to acknowledge that. But to your point, I think there is a balance. It's accountability. So it's not the creation of the policies. How are you holding the city accountable? So if you want to talk about HR and you see the diversity and inclusions where everyone focuses on, so the ratio of people of color, education, all those things, that's great. But then how are we, ensuring that we have a culture for people to apply to our organization and feel that they have a chance to actually get in and be a part of the organization? I mean, you can have impact with that. I mean, that is accountability. It's how are we making sure that we are a more inclusive organization and bringing people into the organization? How are we ensuring our practices for promotions as well as any other mobility is fair? That is fair questions that you all have the right to ask. It's just, I was speaking to the creation of policy was where I was coming from. So there's things there that there's advocacy in that. And I agree that, Carla, you are 100% right. I mean, the first thing I did when we started is that we went around in our organization and asked them to define what equity meant. And the reality was that people had different definitions of equity. And I think that is something that you all can talk about, but I think that is something you all have to figure out how you want to address. I'm just speaking from your standpoint. The purpose of having me as a liaison is to help guide you so you don't get into these pitfalls of having unworkable direction that would cause you to go into these circles. And so the goal is that moving forward, whatever you all decide to do, if you decide to update the ordinance, if you decide to do something different, is to make sure that the language that you're using and that the process that you're going to be moving forward with is going to actually yield results for this organization and for the community. So, my goal is not to, that's why we worked on the environmental justice. They were working on that for 3 years. It wasn't something that they just did over the summer. And it took help from staff to help develop the language a little bit more so it could be usable. And that is something now that has been passed through City Council. So it would be the same with you all. We will be helping and assisting with that process so that it can be something that you all can benefit from, as well as the community.
Thank you, Kimberly. So I think we've all answered the question about why we do a retreat. It's pretty clear that we need one. And the outcomes we'd be hoping for would be to go together, figure out what our purpose and goals are. And that would lead into perhaps a strategic plan. It could be the strategic plan and a work plan. Carla, I agree that it's important to also get community input on this, because to the extent that we're even on the community's radar screen, it'd be good to know what do they expect of this commission and this work as to help us guide what is our mission and purpose. So
Jane, let's not pass what Kimberly said. Kymberly Walton said, because I think that, and I never really thought about it until tonight, and I see all the people here, and since Carla pointed out, I assume it's about the city manager, that what happens if when things pop up, and people think that we are supposed to respond to that in some way or some form or fashion, how that works. So I think that has to be an agenda item as well in terms of how we respond to I want us to maybe immediate situations. I think one of the things that if everybody doesn't know, that we have to really help people understand is the form of government that we had. And that is some of the things that Kimberly was speaking to when she was being passionate about it, but it's very true in terms of the form of government we have. People don't understand, and I think that they think people can just do things, and there is a certain rhythm that has to be followed. And in terms of this latest issue with the process for the city manager, it's a process that I've gone through. This is my third one. Julia, Wally, and then watching this one, the other two I was involved in. And the same process in this same community was used very successfully before. The difference, of course, was COVID-19. We weren't able to have community meetings, but I thought the staff did a good job of trying to get community input with the Zoom meeting and having people call in with questions, that kind of thing. I mean, other than that, I don't know what else you could have done. I'm not willing to go out and get a virus. I'm 83 years old, so I take care of my health. So I'm not going to be at a public meeting. So that's for me, and I'm only talking for myself. So I just don't understand. There were 3 excellent candidates, and I think people did the job that they were asked to do on the panels, and then the decision lies with the city council, because that's just the way it works. That is the way it works. And that is the form of government that we have. And if people don't like that, then we have to, as a community, change that. And I'm trying to be real calm about it, because I think that it is a very calm thing to think. You just can't change the form of government that we have presently. That has to be voted upon by all the citizens. And I think somebody said that 74,000 people ought to have had a chance to have an input into it, and they're absolutely right. And I guess they would have extended the time, maybe if that many people had sent in questions. So we just have to help people to understand and see the work that has to be done by everyone. Not only this committee, this commission, I should say, but that's being done by the aldermen and also being done by the staff. And it ought to be a collaboration. It's not one versus the other.
I have another question, if I may. In the case of the city manager, I definitely understand the process and the authority and, the rhythm and kind of what needs to be followed and where we fit in that. And quite frankly, we don't have the power there. But in cases where there's, just from my viewpoint, there seems to be a lot of community uprising and I won't say unrest, but anxiety around the decision and, who was picked and why and what, whatever. So like in those types of situations, like while we're not able to maybe formally influence the process, like do people look to us to maybe help hold the city accountable for some of the things that the residents feel they may have gotten wrong about the decision? In any case, of course, I'm speaking about the city manager because I think that's why a lot of people are here and, at least on news and social media, and it's been everywhere, right? But what is our role in that, in that accountability piece, right? Maybe bringing, we look at the feedback that was collected around what are we looking for in the next person, what are the residents want, what are the attributes, et cetera. If there are enough community voices that feel that the decision doesn't match the input that was given, is there a role for us to try and bring the city back to, hey, remember these points, or, you know, what about these things? Or is that not our place?
No, it's interesting, Kimberly, because much earlier this year, when we knew we had a city manager vacancy, the commission did discuss the role that we could have in the selection process, in the vetting process for a city manager. Could there be someone from the commission on one of the panels, the interview panels for the city manager candidates? And that didn't happen, I don't think. Except Melissa was, maybe? So we talked about being part of the process early on, and injecting ourselves into the process.
Jane, Delores Holmes was on one of the community panels.
All right, great. Thank you.
But not representing the commission.
No, not representing.
No, I wasn't there representing the commission.
Representing community.
Yes.
Yes.
I nominated her for that.
All right. Gotcha. So looking back on that process, maybe there was a more formal way to integrate the commission itself, in addition to an individual member as an individual, into the process of selecting the city manager. So maybe that was a missed opportunity.
And to Kimberly's point, Kimberly W., what are the ways we go about at the very least, okay, so proactive would be nice, but catching those missteps? So let's just say it is what it is. Do we come together as a group and discuss in a search that said equity was one of its biggest criteria based on the goals of Evanston and the equity statement that was put out, that we didn't have representation from the equity committee, and maybe XYZ, don't know what it is, not discussing it, but we're not taking, how do we then, if it can't fix today, process-wise, make sure we're not in the same debacle 4 years from now? Is that our role? I'm just...
Well, maybe one of the things, Carla, from my perspective, that maybe if people are feeling that way, is that maybe we could recommend to the city that they rethink their process, if that's what people are asking. I mean, I think that that would be a role for us to recommend, if the commission feels that way, if everybody on that, to say that there's a question about the process from the community, and that they need to reconsider the process that they use. That to me would be the way to go.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think that for the city council in these hiring decisions that we have, especially because of COVID, but also evolving as we go along. I, like Alderman Holmes and Alderman Grover, was part of hiring 2 other prior city managers. And the first one, we had, the community forum happened after we had selected the finalist. It was used kind of to introduce the candidate to the community. And there was not a lot of community input taken in. This process, the fact that we had community panels, we did a community survey, that there was a community forum while we still had finalists, is different than it was in prior times. So I think getting more input in terms of what this commission thinks would be important in terms of information that the city council considers in its decision making, is it as the commission that is looking at equity very particularly, providing that feedback to the city council, I think, is very important.
Right, which was one of the reasons why I even was involved and worked with Alderman Holmes in creating a civic engagement policy, because we are evolving, we are learning. And so we're not about status quo and continuing to do what we've done in the past, because we know that even our great city has passed and practiced policies and practices, again, that have been, harmful. We've redlined, we've done a number of things. And so you know, I felt like this commission could be one of many bodies that could really put a racial equity analysis to what we do, and make those recommendations. And so again, that's why, and I'll get over my frustration. I'm willing to work like everybody else, but that's why we really jumped at the opportunity to provide our lens on a civic engagement policy, because there are probably a number of policies and practices that need to be reevaluated. And I think this is one example. And so moving forward, you know, to not get stuck here, I mean, I'm with you, Jane, in really evaluating our purpose and our power, so that we can get into strategic planning where we actually play a role, or at least we know what this commission can and cannot do, so that we choose to serve a role.
And just to follow up, Alejandra, if we talk about what we can and cannot do, think about also what we want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And then as Carla said, ask for that power, either through an ordinance change or something, to enable us to do what we want to do. So I've made some notes on kind of collecting ideas about what the outcomes would be from a retreat, and please correct me if I'm wrong or add to this. One was understanding what else is happening in the city with regard to equity efforts, and the best way to stay informed of what the city is doing, to your point, Max. Understanding or determining our role and our power. That's the core function of what the Equity Empowerment Commission would be, and to suggest then ways in which we could empower ourselves to do what we want to do, if that's possible, within the form of government that we have. Examining if it's possible to do it before the retreat, or at least making accommodations for discussing community input on the process, and what would the community expect of the commission as part of thinking about our mission and goals. Looking at, Alejandra, our purpose, which could lead into some real strategic planning, and then a tangible work plan with a work plan for the next 3 years. We can look back to where we were heading the last time, but that was based on the Joyce Foundation's kind of framework for an equity lens. We may decide that our work plan looks different going forward. And then to your point, Kimberly, with a Y, it's what can we develop together some circumstances for how we respond to events in the community? What kinds of things would we convene a special war and emergency meeting for, and how would we handle those events so that we can be responsive, so that we can be upfront and make statements and make statements to the community about where this commission is on things. So what else are we thinking that we would look for outcomes from a retreat? It's a full agenda already. And again, most of it's going to be about our mission and purpose.
What role are you holding the city council accountable for? I mean, they have these goals, but I mean, I don't think that they really this year yet evaluated goals. So I mean, I guess there's an opportunity there to think about how do you put the city council and make city council accountable for some of these things as well.
Absolutely.
So can we talk about that in the context of what our role would be as advocates, as oversight, the holding accountable, the oversight part of our role, our function, and then of course supporting the good stuff that's happening. So it's not all going to be negative criticism about what's not happening, but rather supporting also the good stuff that's already underway.
And I wouldn't necessarily say negative. I think we need to come with our own analysis, even if it's a compassionate critique.
Thank you.
We can't continue to do the things that are not working for people.
Yes.
And just to remind, it wasn't the Joyce Foundation. I believe it was the Marguerite Casey Foundation.
Casey Foundation. Thank you.
So can I just add then, I mean, I heard some feedback here about the recruitment process for city manager and being heard equity. In the whole idea of the Casey Foundation, they all use the same framework and principles of how do you do a racial equity analysis.
Yep.
I think what needs to think about, you all, is, do you do that analysis for things such as that, so that the city council has a report from you saying, we did this analysis of the city manager recruitment. We spoke to the aldermen, we spoke to the community, we spoke to the employees about the process. And you work through that framework that you speak to. If you work through that framework, it will then be able to say, here's how you need to, we recommend these things to be thought through in the future, because then you're giving them policy decisions to think about that they can then either accept or not accept. But that's usually how that framework would work. You all will have to do it. It's not, giving it to someone else to do. It will be something that you would have to practice as well. So just something to think about.
All right, and by my reckoning, we've got a little more than 3 weeks to pull together an agenda for the retreat and identify a facilitator. So can we agree that we're looking for somebody to help us facilitate this conversation who has experience in mission and goals, strategic planning facilitation?
I would also add the government piece. There's a number of nonprofit consultants who do mission and vision. I think our work is somewhat different in that we're talking about working within a municipal and government structure, and a commission structure. I think I would prefer somebody that has that experience as well.
Jane, can you repeat what you said? Sorry, we're looking for someone who...
You asking me, Carla?
No, Jane, sorry.
Yeah, a facilitator who is skilled in facilitating the mission and vision, the goal setting part of this retreat, but also, as Alejandra said, with an eye towards governmental structure, who's familiar with how governments work.
Somebody who is a trained equity person?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay,
Absolutely.
just making sure we didn't miss.
Do we have consensus on that?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about the professor who Kimberly spoke to us the last meeting?
Kathleen?
She's working already.
So we are working on doing our first equity training with our department heads in the next few weeks. So we will be talking about just exactly what you all are doing today. We'll be doing that at the department head level. Then we're going to start preparing to put together our internal staff committee that will be structured to start reviewing policies and practices.
Are we skipping ahead to the next agenda item on that?
I'm just answering Kathy's question.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out how we if this is something we want to do, but how we bring what's already happening through the city, within the city, I'm just throwing out, does it make sense to have the same person who's got the expertise from UIC to be speaking to us too? Or I guess I'm not, for me, the mission and the vision is critically important, but also kind of, maybe this is getting to goals, but what does that look like? What would be different 6 months from now or a year from now? What does success mean? Like, if we are successful, what's going to be in place that isn't in place now, or what's going to be different that isn't now? Like, to me, that's kind of where I want to head, but I don't know if that's too much to say, but I think we could work a lot on our mission and our vision, but I think there's a process piece here too that's really important, that I think goes really hand in hand with what's happening already in the city. That's just how I'm viewing it. So I don't want us to be so different or separate from what already is been going on and been worked on so hard, I guess, within the city. Does that make sense to people? I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone, but that's what I'm wondering about. Is I don't want to lose all the, not lose, I don't want to disconnect from what's already going on.
So Kathy, can I just, to clarify for me, so what do you think would be disconnecting about having, what's the disconnect? I think I missed that.
Well, I guess I hear that Kimberly's working with the professor's name escapes me, but who spoke to us at our last meeting. And she's doing strategy and she's doing, work with folks who have signed up and they're moving things forward internally within the staff. Kimberly, Kimberly R., if I'm speaking, if I'm misinterpreting what you've said, then please straighten me out. But
So, yeah.
if I guess I wanna understand that so that we're.
I get what you're saying, Kathy.
Some way. Does that make sense? Maybe I may be misunderstanding kind of Kimberly, but I feel like if the city is already doing internal work,
we should know. We should know.
And we don't understand where that is.
Yeah.
Hasn't started.
Then,
yeah.
Well, but even as you're setting out your strategy, like shouldn't we have that in mind?
Right. Yes, I think so.
It's capacity too. So, I mean, I think your conversation that you all are trying to have on the 7th it's something that you all have to say who you are. I don't want to be the one to say you must use this person. But I also recognize we have community partners like YWCA here. We have Eileen on the call. I don't know if that's someone you're considering to discuss this facilitation. I mean, the common thread is that we all have to be talking to each other. And so, whoever facilitates the conversation would have a meeting with you all as well as myself and so forth. But I think the thing is that I know Kathleen could not take on a commission on top of the city work because that is asking for a lot of us. But I definitely know like identifying other partners in the community that can help us and working together is something that, I think is more ideal, just to make sure that everyone is using the same common language and have the same expectations.
And I may be speaking out of turn, but I don't know, including the why, I'm not sure that there's anybody else in the community who's done governmental work. Is there? I mean, if so.
Well, yeah, there's other people. I spoke to a couple other individuals, but their schedule is pretty much until next year. I mean, the individuals that I've spoken with who does this work who live in this community as well, they are not available because of just the number of interest in this work right now. I mean, there's a lot of communities who are like now looking at equity and they don't even have this committee or anything in place. So yeah, there are other people. It's just, I know that Eileen's on this call every meeting and she has a sense of where you all have gone and where you are looking to be. Now, she may not want to do it. That's up to her, but I think I would want to make sure she's here still. I
would give you some names. It's not my best thing. One of the names does work with me, but I would also give you other names. There are people that do this really well with both the equity and the government focus, and I think that's what you need.
Thank you.
And I agree that the people who are doing this kind of facilitation, they are in such demand right now. And so be prepared for the possibility that we can't do this on the 7th because we don't have anybody to help us facilitate because they're just not available. But thank you, Eileen, for the names. And thank you, Kimberly, for following up and chasing down a facilitator for us who's going to achieve all of our goals of mission, vision, government, and process.
I mean, what we're looking for is somebody who's an excellent facilitator with that skill set, right? And with the racial equity framework, right?
Yep.
And then there's the implementation, right? And so obviously we would benefit from somebody like the professor from UIC who's already in that space, and if she's a good facilitator. But if we can't have that,
Yeah.
then we just need to find ourselves a strong facilitator, you know, with the strong racial equity analysis, and who understands the situation, you know, with working within a municipal government and having a community commission. But then the implementation point is the next step, right? So they don't have to do it all.
Yeah. And Kathleen Yang Clayton is her name at UIC, and we
It's
try.
Kathleen. Yeah, Kathleen Clayton.
Yang Clayton, and I just referred her to Waukegan. The city of Waukegan is also interested, and she's just does not have the capacity even to work with another municipality right now. Yeah.
I mean, she's willing to work with you all, you know, for the 7th, but I think you all, I want you to be the ones that, you know, make that determination. It shouldn't be staff telling you who you should have facilitate. So.
Well, when you make a recommendation, that doesn't mean you're telling us what to do. We can accept it or not accept it.
Exactly.
I think we're grown enough to do that.
Yeah. All right.
But Kimberly, you are a resource to us in this, and with your depth of knowledge of what's going on in this field. Yeah.
I'm just learning. I'm just going to tell you, they really should now. I've been advocating this in my graduate program, that they need to make this a class in graduate school. I mean, they really need to start teaching this earlier on in our graduate program, because that's where it needs to start.
And I just want to go on record saying I love Eileen and the YWCA, and Eileen's been good to us, and I was not saying that it shouldn't be Eileen. I just want to make sure that we're coordinated, right? The work that's going on in the city. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Not to worry.
Thanks, Eileen. It's hard to orchestrate a facilitator by committee too. So if you got good recommendations, let's see who's available and who might be the best fit for this. And we've already set out our criteria for the facilitator, and I think we can defer to you, Kimberly, on making a good decision on this. Anything else on the retreat? And I think I need to share notes on what we hope to cover in the retreat. I don't know if we can do it in 3 hours, frankly, but we'll work with the facilitator in short order to see if that's possible. Anything else on the retreat that's on your mind? All right. I think it may be useful to maybe circulate an agenda for the retreat in advance, just to make sure we're on the right track together, because we all have such different ideas about, it seems, what we want the commission to do, what our mission and vision is for the commission. It'd be good to be on the same page, at least for a retreat agenda. So we'll see if we can pull that together. Anything else? I'm sorry, I'm just fried tonight. It's just been one of those days.
I just wanted to say,
yeah,
Jane, we can't tell.
For just the folks that have stuck with us and that are listening, some names I recognize, some names I don't, but you know, I think one of the things that we all feel is that we want to be not speaking for, but we certainly want to know what, you know, if there are people who want us to be doing something, we want to know that. So for anyone who's listening that says, you know, I really wish they would do this, I'm very open to hearing that, and, you know, let me know, because I think we should be coming to this, you know, with as much input from the folks that are really, you know, that are willing to be here at, what is it, 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, and not tuned into 2 different political town halls. So their views are welcome, I think, and I hope for all of us. You know, if you know somebody on the commission and you want to share your view, I would hope that we would all be, you know, open to that.
Absolutely.
Welcoming that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to react. There we go. Thank you, Kathy. Anything else on the retreat? All right, so next thing would be a draft agenda to circulate and get feedback on that, and identifying a facilitator.
Jane, you mentioned 3 hours. Is a retreat 3 hours?
Is it?
I thought it was 90 minutes.
90 minutes. You have only 90 minutes.
Oh, that's right. 90 minutes. Oh my goodness.
That's not going to cut it.
Look at that. All right. First retreat, part 1 of the retreat.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. We'll see what we can do in the 90 minutes, which is as long as we've been meeting tonight and so far. Thank you, Alejandra.
Can you go to 2 hours possibly?
Jane's already gone to 3, so we should be able to do 2.
No,
When I looked at the list of things that we wanted to cover, my brain automatically expanded to 3 hours. So, yeah.
Jane, now you got us happy that it's only 2, right?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
well, can we do 3 hours?
I don't think it's ideal in one sitting.
Yeah.
We may want to look at a second date to
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
Maybe if we were doing it in person, because I'm 3 hours would be fine, but staring at this thing all day is.
Yeah.
We can work with the facilitator to decide what we can fit into a 90-minute or 2-hour session and what our attentions allow us to do.
Right. I really, I know the kids are on devices all the time, but I really feel sorry for kids who have to sit and do this all day. It's just.
Yeah, I'm feeling sorry for kids generally these days.
Absolutely.
All right, next agenda item, can we move on? A working group update, what is that? Is that Evanston Truth?
I would imagine.
Is that your work internally?
No, that's Evanston Truth.
Did we have a report on that, an update?
We just put it on there just in case there was something we weren't sure.
The working group has not met since before, unless I've missed it, but
Me either. I didn't hear it if we did.
Yeah, we did not. Okay, we'll keep it on the agenda for the next meeting.
we should
Any other
set up,
items?
we should set up a meeting before our next commission meeting to get moving.
We should.
I'm happy, to do this again with Eileen, and for us to come up with a date before the next meeting that we would invite you to, that we would invite members to participate. We need to do the work in between commission meetings to get things moving.
Yep.
Thank you, Alejandra.
Do you want to use the next meeting in November for your second part of the retreat if necessary, or do you think having that at night would be just too much?
I'm indifferent.
Okay.
It might be a good use of our time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it would keep us going to like the momentum, rather than having
To wait for
another
the date
month.
that we can find.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
All right. So that'll be the 7th and the 19th.
Yep. Right. That was easy. Good idea, Kimberly. Thank you. All right. Still moving on to the rest of the agenda. Any other items for consideration, communication, any other reports, any member reports, commissioner reports you want to mention? Any news?
Yeah, so I sent you all some applicants to give you opportunity to give me feedback, Alejandra and Jane. But I also, since we have a number of people who are here who seem very engaged in this, we have a ton of boards and commissions that are always looking for new members, even when they're not currently vacancies. I would encourage people to please go to the City of Evanston's website to see what boards and commissions we have available. I think that's something that, we can discuss at a later time with this commission, is that we don't have a great representation of certain boards and commission, just due to the fact that there's no applicant pool with that depth. And so how could something I'm struggling with is how do we look at boards and commissions as a whole? I mean, because they are part of the community feedback loop in a sense. So that is something that I would love to work with you all to think more about, is how we look at our boards and commissions. Are they effective the way they're structured? And how do we bring in more diverse voices to these boards and commissions that are typically, some of them are all white, unfortunately, and older individuals just because of the topic. So something that I would love to share with you all, hopefully in the future, once we get a little more into what your goals and objectives are for the next year and so forth.
Sounds like that could be a good work plan item. All right. Anything else tonight? Anything else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn us until our retreat on the 7th?
I move adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone,
Aye.
for your time tonight. See you on the 7th, and I hope in the meantime, be well.
Thank
Be
you,
well.
Jane.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Uh,